Welcome to I Love This Thing So Fricking Much, a podcast about passion. My name is Sophie Katz, and today I am joined by Angela Lacey McClintock, an author, social worker, therapist, and corgi mom. Welcome to the show, Angela.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to our talk.
Oh, I am too. So, here's how this works. Angela will have 3 minutes to talk about something that she loves. This can be a person, place, thing, concept, activity, anything she wants. Our only requirement is that she loves it wholeheartedly and wants to tell us why. Are you ready, Angela?
I'm ready.
Good. Got my timer here. Now, what do you love so freaking much?
I love using my creative side to write stories about families in crisis. I've been a storyteller my whole life. I remember when I was in middle school, I would write skits and plays and act them out. Then my mother loves to tell the story of walking in and seeing me in front of a mirror crying. Concerned, she's like, "What's going on?" I said, "I'm just trying to see what it looks like so I can write it down." So I've always been a bit of a imaginative soul, let's say. I went ahead and got my undergraduate degree in creative writing from the University of South Alabama, but I was also from probably mid-teens very interested in psychology and sociology. I wanted to know the why behind certain behaviors. So I got a double minor in psychology and sociology so that I could make a difference, I guess. That was what I really wanted to do in my life. So I began my social work career as a sexual abuse investigator. And 30 years later, I retired as a county director. During my time in social work, I returned to the University of Alabama, got my master's of social work, and became a licensed clinical social worker and a certified trauma professional. And what that means is I spent 30 years listening to the trauma of others. Wanting to make a difference wasn't enough. I realized that I was taking on their trauma and their stories, and they were begging to get out. Also felt like social workers were portrayed in the media as cold, uncaring bureaucrats, and that's the furthest from the truth. No one talks about the commitment that it takes and the sacrifice to be a social worker. I also felt like no one talks about secondary trauma, which is the result of listening and taking in day after day other people's trauma and trying to help them. Some of that just gets in your soul and it just stays. As I retired, I wanted to return to what I loved, which is writing. And I thought, what better way to capture both passions, writing about families in crisis.
Go ahead and finish your thought.
That's how I started on my series of Jennifer Riley and The Boy in the Basement and Grave Justice.
That's awesome. Thank you for telling us about writing stories based on your social work today.
Sure.
How about we start right where you left off? Tell me a little bit about your books.
The Jennifer Riley series will eventually be a trilogy. Right now, book one, The Boy in the Basement, is a story about a mother who is mentally ill, and she locks her young son in the basement thinking she is protecting him from Satan. As the story progresses, kids are trick-or-treating. They hear this cry from the basement. The police are called, and Jennifer's team is investigating what happened to this little boy and how to help his family.
Mm-hmm.
Across town, a young baby was struggling life or death with shaken baby syndrome, and the team also is investigating that. So The Boy in the Basement really is almost a criminal procedure book, but it really touches on what a life in a social worker is like when they're investigating these cases. And it also touches on the why behind, why did this mother do that? You get a little glimpse into that.
You mentioned that before, that you're very interested in the whys of human behavior. And it seems to me you found this point of connection between art and science. People often talk about the arts and the sciences as though they are separate things, but psychology and sociology are very much, they're about people, and also art, storytelling, is about people.
Oh, I agree 100%. every behavior that you see, even the bad behaviors, there's a reason behind it. And if you try to look deep enough, you can find it doesn't excuse bad behavior, but it brings a little understanding. There's a saying, hurt people hurt people. And that's what I want to bring out in my writing.
It seems to me that you end up writing stories that have, because they are based in these real scenarios, these real traumas that people experience and have shared with you through your work. Do you find that that results in creating stories that resonate with people in a particular way because they have that grounding in reality?
I think it does. I think that the reviews that I've had on The Boy in the Basement, and it's been out a lot longer. Grave Justice just came out. But the reviews that I'm getting on The Boy in the Basement are saying that. They're saying they never realized what all was involved in social work. They never thought about the trauma piece of it. I'm quick when I'm asked to say these are not specific cases.
Hmm.
They're based on a compilation of cases that I have investigated, over 30 years.
What are some things that you wish people knew about social workers that you hope they'll get out of reading your books?
That is a great question because that is why I write them. I don't see myself getting super rich from writing, but I do want this message to get out that there are bad apples in every profession. But most social workers, the majority of the ones that I've worked with, they really go into this to make a difference. They sacrifice their own family time. They work nights and weekends. They're available whenever they're called to go protect a child. And that doesn't get shown. Also, they take on a lot of personal trauma. And I want social workers that are reading this book to get that piece and try to implement self care in their life.
If it's not too personal to ask, has this process of writing helped with your trauma?
Absolutely. It is extremely cathartic. Right before I started writing the novels, for 3 years, I published a blog called Water for Camels. And I did it to encourage social workers and first responders. And between the blog and the novels, it is very cathartic for me to be able to get some of these stories out of my head.
I can only imagine if the only place these stories exist is when you're thinking about them, it's just bouncing around with nowhere to go. But once you put it out there, then yeah, catharsis is the right word for it. You can finally take a break.
Yeah, it releases them in a way.
And at the same time, it's an opportunity to introduce these concepts to someone else without them needing to interact personally with a traumatic situation. They're then able to understand a little more about the world beyond their personal experiences.
Absolutely. I consider myself extremely lucky because I get to practice both of my passions, social work and writing, at the same time. And not a lot of people get to do that. So I know that I'm blessed.
Is there anything that you don't like or perhaps find particularly challenging about writing fiction based on your social work experiences? And if so, how do you handle that?
I would say the only challenge is making sure that I do use a compilation because there are some stories that still distress me of cases that I've worked, and I can't write them down until I can make them much more vague than they are. And I think that's the challenge, is to be able to take the experiences but combine other ones so that you're not breaking anyone's confidentiality or you're not, setting yourself up for anything.
Yeah, it sounds like a great responsibility you've taken on that you want to share these stories in a way that will help even more people than the specific people that the original inspiration for the story was about. But you also don't want to cause harm to anyone that you've worked with by using their stories in an irresponsible way.
That's exactly right. And that's the challenge that I face. But so far, I've been able to write these books in a way that the message gets across, but it's not pointing at any one act or person.
You mentioned before that people have come to you saying, "Oh, I didn't know that this is what it's like for social workers." Are there any other examples that you've seen through people's response to your stories? You see that you are making a difference that you want to make?
The one word that I see a lot is heart-wrenching on my stories because, and I do have trigger warnings in them because if you've been a victim of abuse and neglect, I want you to know going into the story that it's going to be addressed. I don't want you to be triggered. That is not my intent. So I put a trigger warning in there. But so far, I haven't had anyone say that it triggered them or that it was distressing. They do use the word heart wrenching a lot.
It's a good word. It's a useful word.
It is. I don't mind that one.
Angela, thank you so much for telling us about something you love today.
Thank you for having me. It's been really fun.
And thank you, our listeners, for tuning in today. If you would like to learn more about our guest Angela or her books, you can find her social media information in the episode description. And if you have something you love so freaking much you want to tell me all about it, consider this your invitation to join the show. I Love This Thing So Freaking Much is a production of Through the Window Media. This episode was directed and edited by Sophie A. Katz. You can find us at Through the Window on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Tumblr. That is THROU the Window at all those social media sites. Be good to yourself, be kind to each other, and you'll hear from us again soon.